tonight. Move to override the president on statutory delegates provision in the Electoral Act suffers setback in the House of Representatives as Deputy Speaker steps down motion. We leave Nigeria better than we found it, the president declares, as he reels out his administration's achievements on security, anti-corruption fight, infrastructure and economic development. Youths express outrage at the process of getting the permanent voter cards as they besiege INEC registration center in the nation's capital, Abuja.
Business news tonight, Africa records strong progress in building tax transparency and tackling illicit financial flows in 2021.
On sports news tonight, Nigeria's Golden Eaglets qualify for the Africa Under-17 Cup of Nations with an emphatic victory against defending champions Cote d'Ivoire in the semi-final of the WAFU B Under-17 Championship in Ghana.
And from Abuja, fuel scarcity spreads to more states across the country as motorists lament shortage of petrol amid rising cost of the product.
And in international news from London, the French President Emmanuel Macron has rejected a resignation offer from the Prime Minister he appointed after their coalition lost its working majority on Sunday.
The move to override President Muhammadu Buhari on the Electoral Act as amended suffered a setback today in the House of Representatives as the motion was stepped down by the lawmakers. The amendment is on Section 84, subsection 14, to allow statutory delegates to participate in political parties, congresses and conventions. The motion was stepped down after the Deputy Speaker, who presided over the plenary, advised the mover of the motion, Mr. Benigbapa, against violating the procedure for overriding the president. Our National Assembly correspondent, Terry Kumi, reports.
It's about 40 days since the National Assembly transmitted to the President for assent a bill for an act to amend the Electoral Act 2022, which amended Section 84, subsection 8 to allow statutory delegates to participate in political parties, congresses and conventions. Section 58, subsection 4 of the Constitution provides that the President has 30 days to assent to a bill sent by Parliament or formally communicate his decision to decline assent. Honorable Benigbapa moves a motion during Tuesday's plenary on the need to override the president, based on the Speaker's advice the previous week when the lawmaker raised a constitutional point of order on the matter. The Deputy Speaker, however, draws his attention to the procedure for overriding the president, and the motion is stepped down.
My guide is only that the procedure followed is not what is expected, and that's not the procedure. That's only that's my guidance.
Mr. Speaker directed exactly what I am doing. So it means there's a miscommunication somewhere, but what you are saying is still in order. We'll follow it and ensure that this is done.
The Speaker wouldn't have asked you to come with a motion because for you to override on any bill, you need two-thirds of members, not two-thirds of members sitting, but two-thirds of members of the National Assembly. So it can come through motion. And that's why I'm guiding you and then guiding the House. Thank you very much. So motion stepped down by the leader of the House for further legislative action.
Outside the chamber, the House leader and the sponsor of the motion speak on what had just transpired.
By our standing rules and by the procedure, traditional procedure of the House of Representatives, you can only do that by a substantive bill, because this is a legislation. And you cannot overturn any legislative upheavals through the instrumentality of a motion.
The explanation is that the rules and business should bring it in form of a bill. Yes, I expected the chair to direct the rules and business to bring the bill for reconsideration so that we can pass it for a fourth time, which means with two-thirds majority, which means we have actually fulfilled the Section 58(5) of the Constitution.
The actions of the House of Representatives is similar to that of the Senate, which had gathered signatures to override the President's veto on the Electoral Act Amendment Bill earlier this year over the inclusion of direct primaries as a compulsory method of primaries for political parties. That plan was eventually jettisoned. Attention will be focused to see if the House will follow through with the override and if it can get the Senate to sign off on it as well. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Staying in the National Assembly, President Muhammadu Buhari has sent the names of 7 ministerial nominees to the Senate for confirmation as ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The confirmation request is contained in a letter addressed to the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, and read on the floor during today's plenary session. Our correspondent, Linda Kigbe, has more.
I have the honor to forward the underlisted ministerial nominees for confirmation by the Senate. 1.
Senate President Ahmed Lawan reads a letter from President Buhari requesting the upper chamber to confirm 7 ministerial nominees.
Copies of their curriculum vitae are attached herewith. It is my hope that this exercise will receive the usual expeditious consideration of the distinguished members of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
However, President Buhari did not attach the portfolios for the ministerial nominees, an action which Parliament has raised eyebrows about. If confirmed by the Senate, the nominees are expected to replace the vacant ministerial positions. Meanwhile, the string of defections continues in the upper chamber. 3 lawmakers from the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, jumped ship to opposition parties. Senators Ahmed Keita, representing Katsina North, and Francis Alimihena from Edo North moved to the People's Democratic Party, PDP, while Senator Lawal Gumo, representing Bauchi State, defected to the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP.
Change of political party.
The notice of their defection was contained in 3 separate letters read by Senate President Ahmed Lawan during Tuesday's plenary session.
As a senator representing Katsina North Senatorial District, I write to formally notify you of my resignation from the All Progressives Congress, APC, and registration declaration for the People's Democratic Party, PDP. My resignation from the APC was born out of the marginalization of critical stakeholders of the party by the state government and the leadership of the party in Katsina State, where small people like me do not have a chance.
Meanwhile, the PDP has nominated Senator Philip Aduda as a new minority leader. This is to fill the vacant seat created by Senator Eyinaya Baribe's defection. The party has also nominated Senator Chukwuka Utazi as a new Senate minority whip. Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
In the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari says his administration is leaving the country better than it met it in 2015. In an interview published by international news agency Bloomberg, the president alludes to the increased investment in infrastructure, recovery of stolen funds and improved security as key achievements of his administration in the last 7 years. Our State House correspondent, Gloria Mizuke, also reports that the president insists on the non-removal of subsidy from petroleum products.
It is less than 7 months before the end of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, and some of the issues that formed the crux of his campaign in 2019 have once again come to the fore. In a question and answer session with New York-based media company Bloomberg, the president bears his mind on the fight against insurgency, corruption and infrastructure development. On the state of security in the country, the president explains that the Boko Haram insurgents are on the verge of extinction as a military force following the killing of their leaders. Although he commends support from the international community in the fight against insurgency, he, however, wants more support in tackling the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, whom he believes are responsible for decimating the nation's crude oil production. In his words, we urge those same international partners to take additional steps, costing them nothing, by proscribing another group, IPOB, as a terrorist organization. Their leadership enjoys safe haven in the West, broadcasting hate speech into Nigeria from London, spending millions lobbying members of the U.S. Congress, and freely using international financial networks to arm agitators on the ground. This must stop. The president also validates the anti-corruption effort of his administration, stating that the drive has led to the recovery of hundreds of millions of naira in stolen funds, including over 152 billion naira between January and December 2021. He further defends his administration's decision not to remove fuel subsidy. According to him, my government set in motion plans to remove the subsidy late last year. After further consultation with stakeholders and as events unfolded this year, such a move became increasingly untenable. Capacity is due to step up markedly later this year and next as private players and modular refineries come on board. The president believes that his administration is leaving the country in a better place than it was when he was first elected in 2015. He pointed to key investment in infrastructure across the country while backing the foreign exchange management of the central bank. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
The president has directed increased efforts, both kinetic and non-kinetic, in the rescue of the remaining 51 passengers kidnapped during the attack launched on a Kaduna-bound train from Abuja on March 28th. In a statement released by his senior special advisor on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, President Muhammadu Buhari restated the urgency required to bring the case to a close. This is coming after an earlier directive to the military and security agencies in April this year to return the hostages back to their homes alive. President Buhari also welcomed the return of the recently released 11 passengers back to their families, while giving assurance that the remaining victims will be reunited with their families in the shortest time possible. The kidnappers had freed 11 victims after they demanded the release of some of their children as part of the settlement. There was massive turnout of young people determined to register for their permanent voters' cards ahead of the 2023 general elections as the Independent National Electoral Commission begins the Youth Votes Count campaign in Abuja. The campaign is a special movement to mobilize young people to register and vote in subsequent elections in Nigeria, beginning from the 2023 general elections.
Officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, representatives of Yaga Africa and the European Union addressed journalists at the Old Parade Ground in Abuja about the ongoing Youth Vote Count campaign.
This campaign has been...
The special campaign is targeted at mobilizing young people to get registered and vote in subsequent elections in Nigeria.
We cannot have a huge population of people who are of voting age, and what we record on election is just 35% turnout. It doesn't bode well for our democracy. And so the partners are really interested in contributing our own quota to mobilizing citizens to vote.
The electoral umpire says it has deployed over 150 officials and 50 machines for the registration exercise. Outside of the Old Parade Ground is a large crowd of young people who are waiting to gain access to the registration point.
The machines are not provided enough. We are not getting enough machine to carry out this exercise. Youths are finding it difficult to get registered. Why?
It has been the same thing since February. I went to the office in February. They said I should come by April.
The system is not working. You know, how can someone from Day come to this place to register for PVC? Somebody coming from Suleja, it's too stressful.
Notwithstanding the difficulties of getting into the premises, some of these young people are determined to register and cause a change in 2023.
200 level, I went on coronavirus break. My friend, I cannot go to school because of our 4 months strike. And they don't want me. I want to vote for a new leader. We need a new government. We need a change.
I was supposed to come and do this because I need it. And besides, I am tired of this stress the whole Nigeria is bringing. So I need a new change. We need a new government for all of this.
The 2019 INEC report reveals that young people accounted for over 51% of total registered voters during the last general elections. However, only about 35% of this population voted during the elections, a situation that the Youth Vote Count movement wants to change.
In part two, after the break, APC Northern Youths called on the president to pick a running mate for the party's presidential candidate. Plus, fuel queues appear in more states as scarcity of petrol bites harder across the country. Do join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Move to override the president on statutory delegates provision in the Electoral Act suffers setback in the House of Representatives as Deputy Speaker steps down motion. We leave Nigeria better than we found it, the president declares, as he reels out his administration's achievements on security, anti-corruption fight, infrastructure and economic development. Youth express outrage at the process of getting the permanent voter cards as they besiege INEC registration center in the nation's capital, Abuja. Northern youths under the aegis of APC stakeholders Vanguard are calling on the president to intervene in the process of picking a running mate for the party's presidential candidate. During a protest by the group at the National Secretariat of the party in Abuja, they argue if the APC fields a Muslim ticket for the 2023 general elections, it will exclude the millions of Christians in the Middle Belt, thereby jeopardizing the chances of the party in the general elections.
In the quest to position our party for electoral success in the general election, which is choice of the running mate to our presidential candidate, Asuwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We wish to inform our indefatigable President Muhammadu Buhari, the National Working Committee, and all men of good conscience that some vested interested within the party hierarchy are trying with the idea of fielding a Muslim ticket for the presidential election. See in the light of the day, considering the available of notable Christians, members of our great party that have sacrificed tremendously for the growth and development of our party from its inception. Those toying with the idea of the Muslim ticket must realize that the North Central is crucial constituency that needs to be harnessed to present the formidable team that will graduate, that will guarantee electorate success to the elections.
The European Union is calling on the Nigerian government to address and follow up on reports of alleged vote buying during the just concluded Ekiti governorship election. The EU also commended the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, for its action during the polls and encourages INEC to fully implement provisions on financial control over political parties in line with the recommendations of the 2019 EU Election Observation Mission. In a communique by the Union, it's commended INEC for improved logistics and efficient electronic transmission of results, which they believe augurs well for the general elections in 2023, adding that the EU will continue to support mobilization of voters to register and participate in the 2023 elections through the Youth Vote Count 2.0 campaign. Presiding pastor of the Household of God Church and former presidential candidate of Fresh Democratic Party, Reverend Christopher, has been speaking on various issues of national interest, saying there is no better time than now to re-examine the structure of the country. And part of his submission is a proposal for an interim national government as solution to the democratic challenges of Nigeria. Reverend Okotie is also calling for the scrapping of the National Assembly due to its burden on the nation's finances. It's one of those exceptional days at the Household of God Church. The lead pastor, Reverend Christopher, is a year older, and he will be celebrating here in church. As the congregation worship and celebrate while waiting for their beloved pastor, in no time, he arrives at the premises, beaming with smiles as he makes his way into the auditorium. If you're familiar with Reverend Okotie, moments like this will be different. He leads the congregation as always, with no signs that this is a birthday celebration. He opens up on Nigeria's political environment.
I believe, and I'm fully persuaded, that the presidential system of governance has failed this country totally, completely, woefully. We need to get rid of the legislature. There are 57 standing committees in the Senate and 89 standing committees in the House of Reps. What did they do? When they come into that place, they assign them to different committees. Now, it cost us billions. I'm talking about billions to maintain that structure.
In 2003, he ventured into politics, citing divine ordination, and after a period of habitation, Reverend Okotie is back.
I'm calling on Nigerians all over our country, young people, to begin a conversation that would lead to the transition from this regime, like I said, to an interim government that I want to run. There's just something about Nigeria. There's a certain power that is embedded in our national psyche that must now be summoned to rekindle hope in the Nigerian fraternity.
Here's a summary of the proposal.
I'm appealing to all of the presidential flag bearers to temporize and maintain a hiatus peacefully so that we can enter into an interim government that will rectify all of these problems that we have and become the instrumentality for the crystallization of the new Nigeria of our dreams.
Let's go now to Abuja, where Linda Kigwe is standing by with more on the news at 10. Hi, Linda.
Hello, Amarachi. Now, still on the state of a nation. The fuel crisis in parts of the country has entered its second day, leading to long waiting hours at filling stations for motorists within a spill over effect on transportation in the affected states. Our next report highlights the fuel situation across different states of the Federation.
Long queues for premium motor spirit, also known as petrol, have resurfaced in filling stations across the country. Queues by motorists obstructs vehicular movement from the early hours of the day in Lagos. From the Koi area of the island to the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, the situation remains unabated. Few persons were able to get the product, while others were not so lucky. In Ilorin, the Kwara State capital, the reason for this fuel queue is not far-fetched, as most of the filling stations here are not selling the product.
We don't understand what was going on. One thing, the fuel was okay, we were buying at normal price. The next morning, we found out that people are queuing. Some people are even selling as high as 200 and 190. So we don't know what is going on. We just implore the government to please help us and solve this problem.
However, motorists were seen buying fuel without any hassle, but at exorbitant prices in Damaturu, the Yobe State capital. Contrary to the situation in Yenagoa, the Bayelsa State capital, where most petrol stations are operational with few queues, in the southeast region, there seems to be no fuel scarcity, although the pump price has increased. In places like Owerri, the Imo State capital, some residents are appealing to the federal government to intervene as soon as possible to avoid an escalation of the situation.
Whether allegation or not, please, we beg the government or whoever that's in charge, let them not add any dime on the prices again. It was 87 naira before this government came into power. We expect it to be less than 87 naira.
It's better for government to even take the caution and constrain what they want to do. At least if they can still, I'm even advising them to reduce this 165 or 162. Because during the time of Jonathan, I think we bought fuel at 97 naira. From Jonathan till now, it's not up to 20 years.
There are currently no queues at filling stations in Port Harcourt, the River State capital. However, the chairman of the Petroleum Products Retail Outlet Owners Association of Nigeria says his members have in the past 3 weeks struggled to service the state with old stocks, which has now been exhausted.
The cost of operating this thing at the filling stations has increased. We run diesel from almost every filling station you see in this state and in the nation, run diesel, operate on generator. The cost of living has increased. We can no longer afford to run the private retail owners at the same cost we are running it before.
As Nigerians strive daily to get petroleum products, a swift intervention by the government and stakeholders across board is urgently needed.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Africa records strong progress in building tax transparency and tackling illicit financial flows in 2021. That's in Business News. Join us again. You're welcome back to the news at 10, coming to you live from Abuja. Key players in population management are meeting in Abuja to discuss the implementation of the recently launched National Population Policy and the role of family planning in population management and economic development in the country. The event is organized by the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies in collaboration with some partners. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation project in Nigeria raised concerns over the spate of the nation's rising population and called for investments to cater for the needs of the people. It's a high-level dialogue on the national population policy. Experts here are discussing population growth and human capital development, the challenges and opportunities it offers.
Indeed, at a growth rate of 1.05%, it is projected that the world population will reach 8.5 billion by 2030 and 9.7 billion by 2050. However, the shares of population growth, ability to effectively manage population growth, as well as the capacity to cope with the consequences of large population, vary significantly from one country to another.
Some of the dangers of population explosion includes increase in crime rates, insufficient food, underemployment, inadequate housing and healthcare facilities, and traffic congestion. Nevertheless, it has its benefits, including increase in demand for goods and services and increase in tax payment and investments. However, the adoption of a national population policy, according to government officials, offers a chance for the nation to harness the potential of its population.
Meetings such as these would support the shaping of policies around gray areas and as well to advance better implementation measures for adoption. Indeed, time has come for us as a country to engage with very sensitive matters, even because the very stability of our country depends on these conversations.
This is no doubt a good initiative, considering the place of population policy in the development of a nation, especially against the background of the need to understand its dynamics relative to national resources.
Key players in the population management sector speak on what is expected of members of civil society organizations in population management and control.
There is an important role for civil society organizations to play, not just the national population policy, but with all the policies. And that role is with the accountability, part of the accountability framework with the implementation of the policy. You see, where there is no accountability, you cannot expect optimum performance.
Nigeria's population grew from 135.3 million in 2004 to 201 million in 2020, making it the most populous country in Africa. And to the judiciary, where the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Tanko Muhammad, has responded to a letter written to him by 14 justices of the Supreme Court who complained about the deplorable state of the court. In a statement by his senior special assistant on media, Ahuraka Isa, the CJN says the working conditions that the justices were complaining about are being addressed. The justices had cited the poor state of the court facility, poor retraining packages for judicial officers, among other things. Justice Muhammad said it was unfair to give the public the impression that no improvement has been made since he came into office. 14 justices of the Supreme Court wrote to the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Tanko Muhammad, in the first of its kind protest letter in the 58-year history of the Apex Courts. The family of gospel artist Osinachi Nwachukwu has told a Federal Capital Territory High Court that the singer died of ulcer following starvation by her husband and not cancer of the lungs, as he claims. This testimony was given by the victim's mother, Mrs. Caroline Madu, and her elder sister, Mrs. Favor Madu, who took to the witness stand at the commencement of the trial of Mr. Peter Nwachukwu. Both women told the court that the late gospel singer lived in fear in her matrimonial home. And that's all from Abuja. Back to you, Amarachi.
Thank you, Linda. Back here, the Sickle Cell Foundation Nigeria has held a lecture in Lagos on self-care as part of activities in its month-long observance of the 2022 World Sickle Cell Day. Medical personnel, people living with sickle cell disease, partners of the foundation, and guests were in attendance. Our correspondent, Mary Alale Yusuf, reports.
On this occasion of the World Sickle Cell Annual Celebration, a sizable number of people is here to learn particularly about self-care in sickle cell anemia. The chairman, a pediatrician who has seen his fair share of children with sickle cell disease in his practice, is looking to the future of care.
I will therefore propose that a care pathway, beginning with routine national newborn screening program for detection of sickle cell disease, should be put in place.
For the keynote speaker, Professor Nora Akinola, one must not be discouraged that Nigeria has the highest burden of sickle cell disease, but focus rather on the fact that it is manageable and not a death sentence.
You need to take a lot of water to preserve your kidneys. They must avoid extremes of temperature. So they shouldn't be too hot. So if they sweat too much, they will dehydrate.
People living with the disease are not exempted from pregnancy and exercise, but these must be supervised and measured.
Some say they're infertile. We know that also is not true, because we've even had some of them having twins, even in our hospital. They can do exercise, but it has to be moderated and within the limitation of that individual.
Pastor Atinuke Adeleye, who lives with the condition, will not let it keep her down.
It was a bitter pill to swallow, but accepting it really helped me. I so much accepted it that once the crisis is over and it's just a recuperating period, I would have asked my sisters to bring my makeup purse and makeup and wear beautiful clothes. When the doctors are doing the ward round and they see me, they'll be wondering, is she the one?
The stresses, they can be physical stress, they can be emotional stress, or what we may call it mental stress. Take your routine medicines, take your folic acid, take your malaria medicine that prevents malaria.
As activities wind down to the ambience that pleasant strains of music lend to the atmosphere, participants are more aware of self-care, red flags, and the importance of maintaining a positive attitude. Mary Alale Yusuf, Channels Television News.
The federal government has handed over phase 2 of the Hadeja Onguru Road to the Jigawa state government. President Buhari, represented by the Minister of Water Resources, Mr. Suleiman Adamu, carried out the handover in Berniwa local government area of the state.
Spanning over 72 kilometers, the Hadeja Onguru Road connects Jigawa State in the northwest and Yobe State in the northeastern part of the country. Having been under construction since 2010, the current administration has now completed the second phase of the project, comprising 33 kilometers, and is handing it over to the state.
We are handing over today the 33-kilometer road which links Hadeja Kirikasama in Jigawa State. A very important road that connects agrarian and trading communities to ease the movement of their farm products. By linking these communities together, this road becomes a critical component of our national road network.
The road construction project and other similar projects are geared towards stimulating economic growth across the country.
These projects represent major investment in road transport infrastructure, which is a commitment of the Buhari administration as a driver for economic growth and prosperity. They are visible and incontrovertible assets in proof of what Nigeria's resources are invested in.
The federal government, as a policy direction,
focused on the completion of several ongoing projects to stimulate economic development, job creation, and promoting local content.
Represented by his deputy, Umar Namadi, the Jigawa State Governor, Badaru Abubakar, says the project is just one of many executed by the Buhari administration in the state.
In addition to this, we are all aware that there is Gaya-Shuaren Road, there is also Shuaren Jama'are Road, there is also Shuaren Kwanaguguma Road, and there is also Hadeja Gamain Kafin Hausa Road. These are all roads, federal roads that are being constructed by the federal government.
The completion of Phase 2 of the Hadeja Onguru Road comes as a relief to farmers in nearby Kwanaguri, Kirkasama, Birniwa communities and fish traders from neighboring Lake Chad who rely on the route to transport their produce to their final destinations for sale.
Let's get into the day's business news. Here's Anne Mawudu.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Marachi. Hello and welcome to Business News. Africa has recorded strong progress in building tax transparency and tackling illicit financial flows in 2021. And that's according to the report by the Africa Initiative. That report shows that African countries' request for information for tax collection purposes rose by 26% last year in spite of a challenging environment. A breakdown of that report also reveals that Nigeria and 3 other countries accounted for 92% of these requests. African countries have continued to suffer significant losses from tax evasion and illicit financial flows, estimated at $50 to $80 billion every year. The Executive Secretary of the Pension Transitional Arrangements Directorate, Dr. Chioma Ejikeme, has been speaking on some of its intervention programs which aims at ensuring prompt payment of benefits to retirees. One of such interventions, according to her, is the I Am Alive scheme, which was launched in October 2021. Let's head to the equities market. It recorded its first positive close this week. Investors gained about 180 billion naira. Will Ibong tells us more.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. The NGX eked out its first gain since last week, reversing what could have been a flawless victory for the bear. Right, we'll go inside the numbers responsible for this market turnaround and leading the sectors to a mixed close. Dangote Cement bounced today, rising more than 8% after it dropped 10% yesterday. This lifted the industrial goods counter as it gained 3.86%. The 5.09% jump in O&O did the magic for the oil and gas index after cratering in yesterday's session. Banking stocks did not do badly as they mostly dominated top trades by volume. Let's check out the stocks that got buying attention. Livestock feeds fought its way to the top gainers list, gaining 10% to close at 1.32 kobo, followed closely by MRS and Dangote Cement. Dangote's recovery today pushed its share price to 270 naira. One win in the bag following a week of heavy losses. But will today's market action set the trend for the rest of the week? We'll keep our eyes on the pops and the drops. And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Will Ibang. Back to you.
Thank you for watching Business News Tonight. I'm Anne Mwawadu. The rest of the news at 10 continues with Amarachi.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Well, when the news at 10 returns, French President Emmanuel Macron rejects a resignation offer from the Prime Minister he appointed after the coalition lost its working majority. That's the performance scene. Join us again. Russia has warned it will certainly respond to Lithuania banning the rail transfer of some goods to the Russian territory in Kaliningrad. Lithuania says it was only following the EU sanctions imposed over Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In another development, French President Emmanuel Macron today rejected the offer of resignation from his Prime Minister Elizabeth Borne after his coalition lost majority in Sunday's election. Simon Pusey has more.
To control Parliament. Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The French president has rejected a resignation offer from the Prime Minister he appointed after their coalition lost its majority on Sunday. Emmanuel Macron is now under pressure to secure support from rivals to fulfill his government's reform agenda. But neither Marine Le Pen's far right nor Jean-Luc Mélenchon's left Green alliance are keen to work with him. Minority governments are a rarity in France, and Mr. Macron's Ensemble alliance is 44 seats shy of a majority. This means he will need to find support from mainstream MPs from both the left and right side of politics to help build a working majority. Floods continue to batter Bangladesh, hampering residents' access to food, on top of leaving at least 32 dead since late last week. Bangladesh had experienced monsoon downpours that triggered catastrophic flooding in the northeastern Sylhet district, leaving around a quarter of its 15 million population stranded amid fast rising waters and swollen rivers. Government authorities are attempting to deliver 1,720 tons of rice and 58,000 packets of dry food, as well as water purification tablets and medicines to flood-hit communities. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has called Africa a hostage of Russia's war during an address to the African Union.
In an emergency for the whole world.
Russia's invasion and its blockade of Ukraine's grain exports have sparked grain and fertilizer shortages and put millions of people at risk of hunger. The blockade has sent food prices soaring. Meanwhile, the Donetsk regional governor released footage that he said showed a fire at a school in Advivka after it was hit by Russian shelling. He said school number 6 is the third one in the city to be damaged, claiming there have been around 200 schools destroyed in the Donetsk region since the invasion. Hollywood actor Ben Stiller has met Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and described him as being his hero.
It's a great honor for me, and nice to see you. It's really wonderful. You're my hero. You're amazing. Yes. No.
Stiller spoke with Zelensky during a visit that included a stop in Irpin, the scene of heavy fighting early in the Russian invasion. He went as part of his role as the ambassador for the United Nations Refugee Agency. He's been working as a goodwill ambassador to the UNHCR since 2016. The co-winner of the 2021 Nobel Peace Prize and the editor of Russia's largest major independent newspapers has auctioned off his Nobel medal for a record $103.5 million. Dmitry Muratov said the proceeds from the auction, which coincided with the World Refugee Day, go towards Ukrainian child refugees. Muratov's Novoya Gazeta newspaper, fiercely critical of President Vladimir Putin and his government, suspended operations in Russia in March after warnings from the state over its coverage of the war in Ukraine. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has denied interfering with the country's judiciary over delays in the presentation of the final report of a corruption inquiry. The commission, headed by Justice Raymond Zongo, investigated allegations of widespread corruption in South Africa during President Jacob Zuma's 9 years in power, known as state capture. It already handed over its first, second, third and fourth reports and was due to present the final part of its findings. This has, however, been delayed several times amid allegations of interference. The first of 3 national rail strikes this week is disrupting the journeys of millions of commuters across England, Scotland and Wales. The action by members of the RMT union is over pay and redundancies, with 2 more strikes planned for Thursday and Saturday.
Good morning. I want to say something about the rail strikes that are today causing...
Boris Johnson described them as an unnecessary aggravation, but says commuters must be prepared to stay the course in the face of the walkouts. The Prime Minister told a meeting of the Cabinet that reforms were needed on the railways. And finally, after 2 long years of COVID restrictions, the Great Stone Circle of Stonehenge has reopened for summer solstice celebrations. Pagans, healers, nature lovers and partygoers all headed to Salisbury Plain to celebrate the longest day of the year. A live stream of the sunset and sunrise at Stonehenge was organised for those who preferred to view it from afar. Around 6,000 people joined together to watch the sunrise just before 5 a.m. in a ritual that goes back centuries. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon. Anthony Joshua has promised to stick to a simple game plan when he tries to wrest back his world heavyweight titles from Ukraine's Alexander Usyk in Saudi Arabia. The towering Joshua lost by unanimous decision last September in London to Usyk, who returned home to fight the Russian invasion before being given a special exemption from military duty. The Golden Eaglets of Nigeria have advanced to the final of the WAFU Zone B Under-17 Championship following a 3-1 win against defending champions Côte d'Ivoire at the Cape Coast Sports Stadium in Ghana earlier today. The defending champions took the lead from the spot just within 1 minute of the first half. Emmanuel Michael Brace on the 36th and 43rd minute handed Nigeria the lead, and Abdullahi Idris made it 3 on the 60th minute of the second half. Chelsea and Inter Milan have reached an agreement over a loan move for the Belgian striker Romelu Lukaku, according to Sky in Italy. Inter will pay a fee of €8 million plus add-ons, with the move being subject to a medical. Brooks Koepka will quit the PGA Tour and join the Saudi-backed Live Golf Invitational Series. The four-time major winner, who has removed all references to the PGA Tour from his social media profiles, will tee it up in the second event in Portland next week. And that's a wrap on sports news.
And the main news again. A move to override the president on the provision for statutory delegates in the Electoral Act today suffered a setback in the House of Representatives as the Deputy Speaker stepped down the motion calling for due process to be followed. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Good night.